Okay, so you've opened up Reaper. We have it here, and this is obviously the Mac version, and it's the latest version of Reaper, which is, if we go to Reaper and About Reaper, we can find out it's 6.2 or 6.21. So what we've got here is the layout where you've got the screen where all your waveforms would be, and the channel strip area as well. Now, to put a new track into this so we can get everything, so there's nothing that's going to be here until you start dropping files into it and so on. Before we go further, I like to take the grid lines, and if I right click on it, I can take the grid lines up to 128 spacing, and that means it'll show me the grid lines even if I zoom right in. What else? So let's open a bit of music, or import a bit of audio. Now we can insert a new track, or we can import a media file. I'll insert a media file. So if I go to this, and in the Reaper media area, I should already have this clip that I've created. So I'm going to just select that. Now, that's kind of wrongly labelled, and it's in stereo instead of mono because I've previously cut this and bounced it. It's not actually wind noise, it's frying pan, frying pan, and cooking. So I've just changed that in there just by double clicking this. It'll still say wind noise up there, but that's not really a big deal right now. It's just so we know what's happening. Now, using the arrow key, I can scrub through this. Left and right. That's moving backwards. And if I stop it using spacebar, I can scrub through it. So it doesn't sound like much right now, but that's fine. The whole thing is that this was just sampled on my mobile phone, or recorded on my mobile phone, so I never sat it near the hob. It was like maybe a foot away from the hob in a corner, and I just set up the voice memos on it and let it record. And as you can hear, there's just me, I think I was cooking stir fry in this one. Okay, now that sounds like frying, that's great, but it also in some ways sounds like really, really heavy rain. And there's lots of parts in this that we could hear other noises. So that's me adding more food to it and scraping through the pan. So this is a good noise that you could use if there was maybe like a kitchen in the background and you were wanting to use it for a bit of Foley for that, a bit of ambience. But in this case, we're just going to look at how we can clean this audio up a little bit. So what we really want is to find a good bit of the sound on it. Okay, now we can zoom in on this track and I can find, right, now, what I'm hearing there is me hitting the pan with the spatula. And essentially all I want is this frying part. Okay, I don't want the noise of me bashing away at the frying pan. So then I'll go to the edit key and, oh, in fact, I don't think it is an edit, it's in, what we're looking for is something that says split kit, split items at cursor, so that's S, and split items at time selection is Shift S. So the cursor is this part here, and we can just go back a wee bit, and if I take that, I can zoom right in and get exactly where I want that to be. I'll put it about here. I'll click S, and now we can see that that's gone. Okay, it's went and split it, and now I need to find the next part, which is. Okay, we don't need me sneezing in it. Clearly I didn't. I covered my mouth and didn't sneeze into the food, as disgusting as that might be. So let's see if I can catch that before the sneeze. And we can see that this little waveform here, if we pop this up, there's a little bit of a bump here, and that's roughly where I start to make a noise. So we'll go for this big one, and I split it there, and yeah, that's that there. So it's still frying from about here, and it is this part here, this kind of ball. That's it there. We don't want that. So I'm going to press S and split that there. So now if I zoom out, I should have a part of a clip that's been split. As you can see, you've got this part, and this part. And I want to take this part here and drop it into its own track. Now, as you see, as soon as that happens, you just drag it down and it creates another track for it, which is pretty handy. So what we'll do now is we'll just mute this track. Let me see. So once you've dragged this down, you don't want to be listening to both of these tracks going on at the same time. You've got a couple of options here. You've got phase reverse, which basically flips the phase of the audio that you've got. You've got the mute button, which will basically silence the track, and you've got solo, which will allow you to hear that track only. Mute and solo are they kind of do the same thing, but they kind of don't, which is terrible. So solo is something you click if you only want to hear that track, and mute is something if you want to not hear specific tracks. You could effectively mute every track except from one, and that would be like soloing them. However, clicking the solo button does that. You may create a mix, and then you find that your your tracks, you don't want certain ones in it. Like maybe you've got an additional kick drum or something that's adding nothing to the piece that you've recorded, so you just mute that instead of deleting it and so on. Anyway, so we're back here, and we're at the, there we go, we're back at the start, and if I click on this track here, it will allow us to highlight it in this way. Double click that and brought up all the faders and stuff. So drag that back. Okay. So you can hear shuffling about and so on, but that's not a big deal. But what you can also hear as well is a kind of rumbling fan type of noise, and that's actually the fan of the oven. And I don't really want that there, because I really just want the high-pitched part of the sound. So I can click on FX, and if it opens up the FX area of Reaper, and it's generally all VSTs. Now it has its own built-in ones, and they're quite powerful, and there's lots of them. There's VSTIs, which are instruments, VST3, which is a newer form of VSTs, and VST3i. So also, because this is a Mac, you've got AU stuff and JS and all these other bits and bobs. Basically what I'm looking for is some EQ, and I've got the EQ from Reaper, which is built in. It's good enough to do what we want, and we'll just add that. Now when we click on that FX button, we've also got this kind of power button there, and that basically mutes the FX. But any FX that you put in here, and you can put in quite a few of them, you can choose to bypass them or not bypass them by unticking that, and you can add more by clicking add, and you can click remove, and it'll remove this. But let's just stick with the EQ, and we'll put that in there. So add, and now what I'm looking to do is play. And you can hear that noise. And what I want to do is try and take the kind of low end off of that. Now we've got different ways in which this will work, and we've got the bandwidth, so we can put a curve on this like that, and we'll take it to about 200, and you should be able to hear the difference. So okay, we don't have that so much. It's still there, but it's not as noticeable. An example would be, oh, ran out of time. If we put the FX off, and then lift it. Still there, but it's not as noticeable. Can I got the lower end of that? Now what I could do is try something else and make this, I'll need to move that so I can actually see what I've got here. Now I know this is the cue from Pro Tools, but in this it's the bandwidth, and it's basically just how much of or how many frequencies it's trying to take out at once. And so the frequency is it moving along the frequency band, as we can see here, and then the bandwidth is just kind of widen it to, you could go, oh, well, I'm taking out everything, or you could just turn it into like a notch, and then you'll be able to see what you can take out that way. So if I take this here and I move that along slightly, and I'll click on this so it loops it. Okay. mean, that's taking it out pretty well, I think. I could always just have a look up here and see if there's anything up here. Actually, what I need to do is put that back up and do it with this one. There we go. You can still hear that fan, but it's not so bad. And yeah, I don't think they need anything else. Now this could sound like rain. It could sound like pretty much anything, but it is like a good frying pan noise. And we'll just keep that like that. And so if I want to, if I'm happy with that part, I've got my my FX in and so on, and I only want this. I can just, and I've only got this certain part here. I can then go to the render, and again this is all your information here. It's 16-bit. It's coming out as a WAV file. It's called WinNoise, but it's not. We're going to call it frying pan. And put the space in there. Full speed or fine is what you're looking for. You could get the sample rate up and all that, but I can't remember what the sample rate of the iPhone is. But we can just go render one file, click, and you see it, it's done. Now, what's happened here is we can see that it's actually rendered the full track, and we don't want to do that. We only want to render that initial part. So if we'll close that, it's Command Shift R. Oh no, that's not correct. Render. Oh yeah, it's Command Option R. So let's try that again. And it should be. Time, no, we don't want entire block, just selected region. Okay, and let's put a tail back on there, and we'll see how that goes. So if I go back to everything's okay there, we've got that here, we're fine. Apply. The render hasn't shown up there. Open render queue, nothing shown there. Frying pan. Let's make that one. It's kind of annoying that the Apple thing keeps on going up there. Selected regions. Time selection. There we go. Let's try that. And render one file. So now we're seeing it's the full thing. It is that part there. Does it say how long it is? No, it doesn't. Okay, if we open up Show and Finder, we've got the track there, and we've got Frying Pan 1 WAV. Let's try that. As you can see, it's kind of going quite quick. Done. Okay, so we come back to this. Now, we're happy with that, but we could maybe add something else to it, maybe add a bit of reverb to it and see if that changes the sound, makes it any better. It might make it sound a bit more like rain. And I'm talking about a heavy monsoon downpour type of thing. Let's try that. And add, it would be reverb. Let's try this. It's been a while since I've used the actual standard reverbs. Let's try. Oh, this might sound terrible. actually, that's not too bad. That could sound like a really, really hard downpour of rain. Yeah, that's not too bad. And you can maybe, it depends, that extra sizzle that you get does sound like maybe something could be going through a puddle or whatever, but you might want to just cut that part off, and then you've just got this constant fizzle. Okay, so that's how you can cut, add effects, and then output a bit of audio that you've sampled off your phone or recorded off your phone.